this is the shir of Zayin Tishrei. This is what we're holding, the shir of Zayin Tishrei. So far, this Igeres HaKedesh, and Bechlal, this Igeres HaKedesh, has 2 points. If you remember when we were learning it, we had a shtickle hefsek, but this Igeres HaKedesh has 2 points. The 2 points revolve around one nekuda, and that's the nekuda of Yesh Me'ayin. Okay, Yesh Me'ayin. Yesh Me'ayin means that Eibishter creates a world, and the nature of this created world is that it looks like Hashem didn't create it. That's what the word Yesh means. The Eibishter creates a world, and the nature of the created world is that it's separated from the Eibishter. That's a Pshat Yesh Me'ayin. And the Alter Rebbe makes 2 points as far as Yesh Me'ayin is concerned. The first point is, where does Yesh Me'ayin come from? He says Yesh Me'ayin has to come from Atzmos. Has to come from the Eibishter himself, because only the Eibishter has Atzmos, has Yeshus. Hishtalshlus is Oyer, and Oyer is Ayin. It's not Yesh, it's bottle. So Yeshus is an Atzmos. Now, how does the Yeshus of Atzmos get to the Yeshus of this world? And the answer is Ein Mein Amoyer. That light carries Yeshus. Even though Oyer by itself is bottle to the Moyer, it carries a quality which it does not reveal. Oyer is carrying the Mile of Yeshus. You should know we're going to have it in Samach Vav later this year. That Oyer is carrying the Mile of Yeshus, although Oyer is carrying the Mile of Yeshus, although the Oyer you only see Bittel. The Oyer is carrying a quality. It's like Mor Shabbat. The Oyer is carrying Yeshus, but now you don't see the Yeshus. Where does the Yeshus manifest? At the end of the day, the Ishtalshalus, the Oyer is diminished, the Oyer is concealed. The Yeshus that Oyer carried is delivered and manifest Lamata. That's the first point. And the second point is that where does this Yeshus have a chance to materialize? In Malchus. Why Malchus? So he said 2 things. He said 2 reasons why Malchus is the source. Number 1, Ein Melech B'Layam. Ein Melech B'Layam means the very design of Malchus is to have a connection to creations that are far away, remote. That's the design. That's Ein Melech B'Layam. Malchus is Richok and not Kiruv. All the other spheres are Kiruv. So Malchus, because of this quality, Ein Melech B'Layam, actualizes the Oyer's delivering Yeshus to create the Am. Am means Yesh, separate Nibrayim. That's number 1. And the second point has to do with his chalkos. One of the aspects of Malchus is that Malchus is the mouth, and the mouth has to do with words, and words has to do with division. And one of the aspects of creation is what's called the diversity of division of creation. His chalkos, how dynamic, how complicated, how many different things there are in the world. This is the second inyan that he mentions about Malchus. Okay? There's a third point also, and that is that Malchus is the highest shadish. It's the lowest sfira, but the shadish of Malchus is in Keser. So for these 3 reasons...
Why is shadish Malchus in Keser? Why? Because it's a kolek b'hevi yisir the Malchus.
Right, and in this particular case, it's this inyan of Shaychas to Zulas, to Nivdal, to Ein Melech B'Layam. The koyach to have Shaychas to Zulas is considered a deeper koyach than to have Shaychas to Aben and to a Sar.
You have to go out of yourself.
Right, so you have to be deeper in yourself to be able to go past yourself. So there's 3 points. So the koyach of Yeshus comes from Eir. From Atzmos, Eir carries it. And the koyach of Yeshus is manifest in Malchus, because of Ein Melech B'Layam, because of the inyan of Malchus Ped, Dibur, and Chalkos, and because the shadish of Malchus is in Keser Elyon. And the Rebbe made a lot of interesting points, including explaining how neshamas are born. Neshamas also have to do with Malchus. He also explained why mitzvahs are lower than Teda, but they have a higher shadish. Because because they have a shadish, they come down lower in Malchus. There's a chitzenius Shabbat, you may recall, that is a chitzenius. And the last point which he mentioned was that just like this is true in Malchus of Atzilus, it's true in every world. Malchus of Atzilus manifests the Ein Sof's Yeshus to create Yeshus in Bria. Malchus of Bria manifests the Yeshus of Ein Sof to create Yeshus in Yetzirah. And Malchus of Yetzirah manifests the Yeshus of Ein Sof to create Malchus, Yeshus in Asiyah. Are you going to ask a question? How could Bria bring Yeshus? The way Yeshus is delivered is through Ein Sof. There's no Ein Sof in Bria. Ein Sof ends with Atzilus. So the Rebbe answers that there's something called Ein Neshama. Ein Neshama is not Ein Sof, it's limited. But Ein Neshama is a lakus in Bia. And because of the idea that Ein Neshama is a lakus in Bia, even though it's not Ein Mein Amoir, in other words, it's not revealing Ein Sof, it's Ein Mein Amoir, and this prat that it carries Yeshus. So in summary, the Shir of Vav Tishrei, which is the Shir of yesterday, the Shir before we learned most recently, is explaining that Ein Mein Amoir is even in Bria, but there's no Ein Sof. But in each world, the Eir, if that world, the Neshama aspect of it, which is a lakus, carries Yeshus, it comes into Malchus of that world, Malchus of Yetzirah, Malchus of Bria, Malchus of Asiyah, and so forth. And the 3 qualities of Malchus are Ein Melech B'Layam, Ribu Yeschalkus, and the idea of Keser Elyon, who Keser Malchus, expresses practically the inyan of Yeshus. And this is where we're holding the shiur of Zayin Tishrei. Now, I guess I have to continue the Hagdama on the Hadith. He explains to us, forgive me for, so to speak, beating on the bush whistle. He explains to us that there's a concept called Me'en HaMoed. The Oyer is like the Eibishter. Because the Oyer, like the Eibishter, it carries Hashem's Yeshus, even though in the Oyer you don't see the Yeshus Pegili. Then he says, and this is true even in an Oyer, which is not Ein Sof, which is not Me'en HaMoed. It's a Neshama. It still carries this inyan of Yeshus. But he mentioned other aspects. For example, he mentioned the idea of Boka Parse Moab, that the Yeshur of Ak is Mistayim B'Ragna Dasiya. In other words, there's certain aspects of Ein Sof that do come Lamata. He also mentioned the idea of V'tachas Reyes Elam, that Asiya, this lowest world, in a funny kind of way, is the closest to Sevev Kalam, because there's nothing in between it and Sevev Kalam. So he mentions a number of different aspects, besides for the idea of Ein Neshama. But you remember also the idea from the Eid HaKav, which is Eid of Ak. Yeshur of Ak is Mistayim B'Ragna Dasiya, and also the Kav. He mentions a number of points, Kabbalistic points, that all add up to one thing. Even when you don't see Ein Sof Begilui, there's enough Ein Sof there in a hidden way that reveals Yeshus and Lamata. So he continues, he says, however, we just spoke about the deliverance of Yeshus through the principle of Ein Me'en HaMoed. And the Eid we're talking about is a Neshama. Or if it's B'Kei Parsa, it's Behelim. He says, all of these issues of higher lights and lower lights, and even lower lights delivering Yeshus, is only talking about the Ha'ara. But you should know that the true essence of what Ein Sof is, you should know that Ein Begedim Malkum Klal has no limitation of space. And therefore, the Sevev Kalam and B'Shabbos in all the worlds in an equal way. And as you guys know, that the word Sevev does not mean surround, because this word surround in Ruchnius has absolutely no meaning. It's such a meaningless word. Sevev does not mean makif. Sevev means helip. Sevev kol am. It's available in a hidden way in all of the world. And he brings the pasuk. I'm sorry. V'es hashamayim v'es ha'aretz ani moli b'shvachas. The Eibishter says, I fill heaven and earth with an absolute sameness. There's no place where Hashem is not. Af ba'aretz hazu hagashmis. Page 262. Even in this physical earth. Rakir is only Shuvah B'chinas Makif, V'Sevev, this is hidden and surrounding. Ukmeisha Kosva Perik B'Kutam Ram, Maltav says in Tanya Perik Chelik Aleph, Kutamam Sefer Shal Beinanim. Perik Mem Ches, that Sevev does not mean surrounding because there's no Makam and Ruchnius, Sevev means hidden. The point of these three lines is the idea that we call Tzimtzum Shalei Kipshutei. We talk about, say, there's Tashlos and higher and lower and more and less and deeper and shallower. That's all in the Kav, it's all in the lowest Madregas. But the truth of Alakus is that Tzimtzum Shalei Kipshutei, which means Hashem and Hashem's light is here just like before creation. Ubemela, you really have another whole thing. The idea that Ein Me'en HaMoed, and therefore there could be Yeshus Lamata. So you have to explain how it comes to Ishtashos. Mitzat Sevev Kalam, and stuff is everywhere the same. There's no differences between one place and the next. And he continues. And there is no expansion and manifestation of life to give life and existence from a non-existential form to an existential form. In other words, the process of Yesh Me'ayin we talked about yesterday is not coming from Sevev Kalam, because Fakir, Sevev Kalam is everywhere the same. Ki'im, it's only the ha'ara, v'chulu mi'akav kanal, from a light of the kav, as we discussed earlier. Now boys, I want to translate these words for you. Ha'ara and ha'ara, the ha'ara and ha'ara, the ha'ara, the ha'ara. Bekitzin and beklalas. I just want to give you this information because there's good stuff to have in your reserve, in your hard drive. Ha'ara means a light. Okay? The rule of light is that it reflects a source. Like for example, the sun has millions of wavelengths. The light of the sun has every wavelength that the sun has. What's ha'ara da ha'ara? Ha'ara da ha'ara means a light that comes from a source that doesn't look like the source. For example, if you take the sun's rays and you diffract them in clouds or through some kind of a prism, so that instead of having a white light, you have a rainbow, as you have in our parasha, a rainbow. So the rainbow is coming from the source, but it's not Me'en HaMoed. And that's type of ha'ara de ha'ara, a light of a light. A light of a light doesn't mean an extra mirror. I mean, I remember being a teenager and literally sitting and trying to understand what this means. You have a light, it bounces off one mirror, it's a ha'ara. A second mirror, it's ha'ara de ha'ara. What's the difference? No difference at all. It's nonsense. Ha'ara de ha'ara doesn't mean that it bounces off twice. Ha'ara de ha'ara means it's called eir shel tuldo or ha'ara nivdelis. It no longer looks like the source. That's ha'ara de ha'ara. What ha'ara de ha'ara de ha'ara? The way it's translated by a makabel. In other words, if you were to say they have sun's light, that would be ha'ara. The colors of the rainbow would be ha'ara de ha'ara. The way your skin would absorb those colors would be ha'ara de ha'ara de ha'ara. It's translating the already translated oir. That's called ha'ara de ha'ara de ha'ara. Ha'ara de ha'ara de ha'ara is only mitzat kelim. Azay vais to it. So the whole issue about yeshus that we talked about before has to do with the ha'ara de ha'ara de ha'ara. The idea of sevav kalam and is b'kul alam b'shav doesn't make any distinctions whatsoever. And he continues. V'gam moreover, I got to tell you something else. That from the infinite light which is saved, which is hidden in all the worlds, la'arba elamis, to all four worlds of Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya, B'Shaveh, to all four worlds of Abiyah equally, you should know that Meir alakav hapnimi derech hakelim diyotzvidas debiyah. It actually does shine into the kav, which is pnimi. Please translate the word pnimi not as inner. Somebody. Pnimi. Pnimi. Revealed. Revealed. If makif is helem, pnimi is gili. Even though the sevav kalaman is b'kulam b'shava behelem, there's an aspect, there's a respect, there's a detail, there's an inyan where sevav kalaman becomes begili through this kav, through the derech hakelim, through the vessel of the tefillah debiyah. As it shines through the vessels, it adds power and strength to create yesh mayayin. So you really don't have such a big kasha. How you create yesh mayayin in biyah? Biyah is not emein amor. So they give you a number of points to the effect that even though the in Safa biyah is not emein amor, there's plenty of emein amor. Okay, and since the vessels, the creation happens not just through the vessels. Therefore, you have the second point. The first point is that the Yeshus comes from Eir. And the Gili of Yeshus comes through Malchus, which is a Melech B'Le'am, Havdalah and Helam. The second point is Ischalkos. The difference between Eir and Kalim is that Eir is one and Kalim is many. So in addition to the idea that the Kalim allow for the Yesh Mayayin to manifest, the Kalim also allow for the Yesh Mayayin to diversify. It means to become from one, Asach, many. Hein Lezeis Hein. This is the creation of Chidas Riboy V'Eschalkus. It's many and it's very divided, Ugvul unlimited, V'Tachlis with a specific purpose. Ubefrat idea Asias Canal. If it's true of the Kalim of Malchus, it's especially true of Asias because there's many more Asias than there are Kalim. The sugi of Kalim and Asias found in Hemshchaim Beis Chelik Sheni. The difference between Kalim and Asias is Kalim is like a vodem, limbs, which are miyached with the neshama. Asias are doimim, letters are dead. Right? So there's Taka Riboy Kalim. But the shalei be'erach more ribu yosef than ribu kelim. So mitzad kelim, but mitzad oises you can have also. At kan malchus. In other words, we finished essentially the second part of this Igeres HaKedesh.